Hello, everybody. Aiden here, and welcome into today's episode of Around the Slice. Well, I'm happy to say that we have finally made it, folks. NFL, and more specifically, Buffalo Bills football is officially back. I know that is just the preseason, guys, but still, nonetheless, today, this is going to be a little taste of what you can expect from our Around the Slice game recaps this season once the actual meaningful regular season games get going. A quick rundown for today from the preseason game. We are going to go over a quick stock report that contains within many different players within that. We're going to check in on some key roster battles and also hand out a couple of awards. However, before we get into all that fun stuff, if you're watching this episode on YouTube right now, please consider subscribing to the channel and liking this episode, as we always have a ton of fun and interesting content coverage, coming out around here on a weekly basis at this point in time, such as game previews, game recaps, such as today, final roster projections as we get closer to countdown day, and so on and so much more. So let's dive right in. Jam-packed episode today. The Buffalo Bills, preseason week 1, defeated the Carolina Panthers, first game in the new Highmark Stadium, mind you, by a final score of 29-14. Starting with our stock report in the stock up category. What players across many different positions really stood out? Obviously, some are roster locks, some are true bubble players, and some have a lot of work to do in terms of making the final 53. First, this is just a formality, but since he played, we'll bring it up. Quarterback Josh Allen. My man proved why he's still the unquestioned number 1 QB in the entire NFL and has been for the last 2 or 3 years, give or take now. 6 of 8, which equates to 75% completion rate, 111 yards, and 1 touchdown. The only quote-unquote, I don't want to even call it a negative, slight slip-up, if you will, is when he turned down a wide-open Khalil Shakir in the flat in the red zone in the very beginning of the game. I think he got a little too greedy in terms of wanting the end zone shot within the 20-yard line or so. But again, it's Josh Allen, who gives a crap at this point. Might as well work out those kinks in the preseason, right? I'm surprised by this one because he's looked horrible in training camp. Let's keep it a buck with you guys. He's looked awful, but he looked functional at the very least. You got to stack preseason weeks 2 weeks in a row. We can't see one preseason on, one preseason week off. You got to stack that consistency for the 2 or 3 games in the preseason at the very least. But nonetheless, quarterback Kyle Allen, 14 of 16, which equated to a whopping 86% completion rate for 108 yards. And he added 1 carry for 2 yards. Who the heck cares about that? 1 carry for 2 yards. But at least he looked functional. That's all I was wanting him to be, especially from the very concerning, awful training camp reports. Next, we go to the running back position. We got quite a few guys here. I should preface this by saying these are all stock-up players in no order of importance or significance. These are just how they're ordered on the stat sheet, if you will. Running back Frank Gore Jr., he had 7 carries for 38 yards for a touchdown. He also added in 1 reception for 7 yards. He showed some really nice explosiveness. I think he has the upper hand in the practice squad over a guy that we're going to talk about right now in Ian Wheeler is the 4th/5th running back here. Same exact carries as Frank Gore Jr., 7 carries for 41 yards this time, though, with Wheeler, and a touchdown. I can't foresee them keeping both. I think that's very kind of a quote-unquote waste of space, if you will, highly unlikely. If they keep both, I would lean Gore, but maybe this is Gore's 3rd year. He hasn't been able to crack the roster yet. The 53, that is, finality there. So maybe you want to get some new blood in the practice squad, and maybe you don't want to keep running into redundancy with Frank Gore Jr. after all this, heading into his 3rd year now. But needless to say, I think Gore makes the roster practice squad pretty easily over Ian Wheeler, but both of them are in a quote-unquote practice squad battle. Next, running back Ray Davis. It's not really what he did on the ground. It's kind of ho-hum, 3 carries for 21 yards. But they were designing screens, especially when Kyle Allen was in, for him. And this is clearly a Sean Payton, more specifically Pete Carmichael influence, where you design the passing game around your running backs, all 3. I know Ty Johnson's hurt right now, but Ty Johnson, Ray Davis, largely James Cook as well. But Davis got a lot of screens in the form of 4 receptions for 32 yards. That's exactly 8 yards per reception. A lot of rack as well. So that was awesome. Next, we head over, to the wide receiver position. First, we talk about Mecole Hardman. In the receiving game, didn't separate much, 1 catch for 3 yards. Who cares? But they gave him a little jet swoop handoff, 1 carry for 27 yards. If he's going to make this roster, 1, it's going to be on a kick returner, as a punt returner, and 2, a potential jet sweep kind of like flanker motion type role. Think of a speedier version of Elijah Moore last year for the was that 2 years ago or last year? I think the first half of last year, albeit, think of that, but a obviously faster version of that. He would have taken to the house if Jude Bowery didn't get in his way and made him run into his own guy, but we'll touch on him later. Unfortunately, it wasn't too good. Wide receiver DJ Moore, the connection with Josh Allen, DJ Moore, superb, perfection. We don't need to see it anymore. Those guys can rest because DJ Moore hauled in 3 receptions for 61 yards. I mean, him and Josh Allen, money. Speaking of a guy that can rest the rest of the preseason is wide receiver Khalil Shakir, 2 receptions for 41 yards. But what caught my eye, the most exciting thing, guys, that I noticed, and you should have noticed it too in a very exciting way, positively, that is, the downfield usage. Joe Brady was designing downfield shots, 15 to 20 yards at the very least for Khalil Shakir. He shouldn't be the screen merchant. He shouldn't be this fancy jet sweep guy. Use him in the intermediate, more specifically deep areas of the field. Coming out of Boise State, all throughout his career, I said, Khalil Shakir has underrated speed. Khalil Shakir has underrated separation ability and downfield juice. Obviously, yes, he ranked top 3 in the YAC each of the last 2 years. Number 2 in YAC, only behind Tucker Kraft 2 years ago, per reception, that is. But, and that's great. Get him in space, make a guy miss, but use him downfield. He's very underrated skill set in that aspect, in that terminology as well. Next, the guy that's probably firmly on the practice squad, I think he cemented a spot here, is second-year UDFA out of Virginia Tech, wide receiver Steven Gosnell, 3 receptions for 44 yards. Just your prototypical camp darling that will end up on the practice squad as well. Next, we talk about the defensive backfields. First, we'll start with corner, then we'll transition to safeties more so. Corner, Jordan Hancock, which is the direct backup slot to D. Elford, and they can use him in some fun and interesting ways in some certain sub-packages as well, I feel like. 4 tackles and 2 tackles for loss. Number 1, his coverage ability was surprisingly very good. Number 2, though, his physicality was on display all game. I mean, he was hunting for that ball. Never stripped, sack, or forced a fumble, but he was hunting, laying people out, laying the wood, if you will. That was really encouraging. Next, talk of the town, Camp Darling of all Camp Darlings. UDFA at Arkansas, baby. Corner, Kenai Walker. He had 1 pass deflection, but most importantly, 1 interception. That play was all instincts. And you could tell when he came to the sideline, dapping up teammates left and right. Even Josh Allen was excited as hell for him. It was all instincts, baby. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, it was all instincts. He jumped the route perfectly. I think it was like a little screen from Kyle Trask or whatnot. But Kenai Walker, Camp Darling for a reason. So, yeah. Next, safety, Jalen Kilgore. We're going to talk about the safety rotation. I haven't liked the safety rotation all of camp and into this preseason game when we unfortunately got to talk about our stock down guys specifically. But Jalen Kilgore, 1 tackle and 1 pass deflection. I need more of him in the remaining 2 preseason games. That's all I'll say for now. And next, defensive line here, defensive end, Mike Dana. He was very quiet until literally the last couple drives of the game. But 2 tackles and he had 2 sacks in the span of 3 plays in the last couple drives. So that's interesting enough. 2 tackles for loss and 2 QB hit. I think Javon Solomon had an okay day, but he's obviously a lack for this roster because of his special teams ability. Do they keep a 6th defensive end / outside linebacker type in Mike Dana? I'd venture to say, I would say no, but maybe based on this game you do. I'm 50-50 in that, quite honestly, guys. And then defensive tackle, this would have been the star of the show if Kenai Walker didn't exist. Dion Walker. I'm sorry. I know I'm going to drop it here. Holy shit, dude. Like, a man amongst boys out there, towering over Bryce Young, literally and figuratively. You know, they posted the meme, Brucey's here from Finding Nemo. Here comes Brucey. Oh, man, it got me hyped. Okay, soapbox over. 3 tackles, 1 sack, and he also had another near sack in the very first drive of the game, sequencing of plays there. 1 tackle for loss, 1 QB hit. I mean, I'm not saying he's Vita Vea. I still want to trade for Vita Vea 1,000%. But can you imagine D-line of Edelver, Vita Vea, and Dion Walker in a D-line in a interior D-line / defensive tackle group that we know very, very little about? Dion Walker is a nice sight to see. Next, linebacker Terrell Bernard. I think he's best taking pursuit angles and rushing the QB because, as evidenced by his 1 tackle and 1 pass deflection right at the line of scrimmage on a key 3rd down stop, I'm just going to say it. Freaking the whole first team defense, outstanding. I mean, first team defense was awesome. And then kicker, Tyler Bass, 3 of 4 on field goals. The 1 misses from the right hash. He's obviously much better from the left hash than on the right hash. I don't know if it's a psychological thing, an angle thing, what have you. No idea. 2 of 2 and extra points. It was nice to see him go through with those. And then we have a couple coaches. Head coach Joe Brady. Other than the penalties, which that was egregious, we will talk about that for sure. There were no clock management issues. There were no delay of game issues. There were no player communication issues. I think this, from a technical perspective, this was a great head coaching debut. I know it's only preseason, but nonetheless, great head coaching debut for Joe Brady and company. It was funny when he threw out the challenge flag at the very end in the 4th quarter rather. You knew there's no way in hell he's going to win this challenge. And he was down for Mitchell Evans and everything, but he wanted to go through a procedure. He wanted to see what it would be like to throw a challenge flag, just like Sean McDermott is as a first-time head coach. Next, mix. These are guys that were just I feel like they could have done more, but they didn't do necessarily bad. First, wide receiver Keon Coleman, I understand. On one hand, he caught the touchdown, but on the other hand, like, he only had 3 receptions for 17 grand, a grand total of 17 yards. 3 for 17, a touchdown rather. Like, great that you got in the end zone, but you were wide open. I mean, who the hell was covering him? But no, most importantly, you were named wide receiver 3 on the first unofficial depth chart for this game. Like, the coaching staff clearly has confidence you over Josh Palmer and Skylar Bell and the like, but, like, damn, prove it. And I don't think he did this game. But I put him in mixed and not pure sack down because he did get in that end zone. Next, defensive end TJ Parker. 1 tackle, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, and 1 QB hit. On paper, he had the sack, great. But unfortunately, I just don't think he won with much technique. Like, I feel like he's all power and nothing else, at least for right now. So we're going to have to monitor how that will develop and shake out and whatnot for sure. And then this is pure sack down. These are guys that just either hurt themselves at making the roster or had a really bad performance, unfortunately. Corner Toriano Pride. This is in direct relation to Kenai Walker. I'm putting Kenai Walker on this roster over Toriano Pride. Pride had 6 tackles, but you can tell he has no confidence in his feet, no confidence in his technique, no confidence in himself, most damningly, whatsoever. Once the ball is in the air, he doesn't know what the hell is going on. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Like, turn your head around, dude. Like, PI, maybe it was a soft PI call, but don't even put yourself in that position. Like, he's holding on for dear life, literally and figuratively, to the offensive guy. Like, when the ball is in the air, he just doesn't know what's going on. Safety, Geno Stone. He had 1 tackle. This relates to Jalen Kilgore directly. I prefaced it earlier, a few months ago, or give or take, or so, rather. I wanted more Jalen Kilgore in these preseason games and less Sam Franklin and Geno Stone. Geno Stone, I thought, could be a underrated depth piece in this whole equation, but hell, he might not even make the roster now. In fact, I think there's a very good chance he doesn't make the roster, and someone over DeMar Hamlin, who's a special teams ace and a surprising amount of starting experience in that safety group in the past, defensive backfield rather in the past, could make it over him pretty easily. And then D lineman, defensive tackle Dwayne Carter. He only had 1 tackle. Phi Mathis barely played in this game for good reason. They don't need to give someone who's going to be suspended 3 games for PEDs reps. This was Dwayne Carter's time to shine. So obviously, in the first unofficial depth chart, Dion Walker was the starting 1 tech, more specifically starting nose tackle. Then the second string nose tackle was Phi Mathis. And the third string was Dwayne Carter. It was like, okay, that's surprising. But with no Phi Mathis, obviously suspension, Dwayne Carter is time to step up as the direct backup to Deon Walker, rather, at nose tackle specifically, and he just didn't. And even more of a guy that I was disappointed with, TJ Sanders. He only had one tackle, so he didn't pop in the least. But the most damning concerning thing I have here is he was playing late into the fourth quarter. That's raised my eyebrows for sure, man. That's usually reserved, especially in the first preseason game of all three, that's usually reserved for true bubble players or players that are very unlikely to make the roster. Are they trying to showcase Sanders for a potential trade? Are they going to outright cut TJ Sanders? I think that's a little egregious to say right now, a little hyperbolic to say right now based off one game, but it's definitely a concerning notion if you really want to break it down such as that and think about it. Rather, next tackle, Jude Bowery. Between running into Mecole Hardman to prevent his own player's touchdown and just getting completely washed out of blocks with power and speed everywhere, all which way and whatnot, and so on and so forth, this guy had a rough debut. Like, if he's going to be the starting left tackle of the future of the next 2 or 3 years or so, hopefully, if Deon Dawkins struggles again and ultimately cut, like, he's going to have to show a lot more than that. And he just had a really rough go of it. Next, the penalties. 9 penalties for 98 yards. A lot of those came when the backups and third stringers win. But for a head coaching debut, Joe Brady, for the most part, he did great. Just got to fine-tune those little technical things. Big Slice of the Game award. Kenneth Walker, baby. How could you not? UDFA corner out of Arkansas? He's making this team. Toriano Pride? Kick rocks. It's Kenneth Walker time. Burnt Slice of the Game award. You expect one thing, and it disappointed you, just like your favorite pizza shop, burnt slice of pizza. That is defensive tackle TJ Sanders, just because of at what point in the game he was still playing late into the fourth quarter. Next, quick rundown of players that did not play due to injury. Running back Ty Johnson, it's a very mysterious thing. Wide receiver Tyler Shavers, previously known on PUP, will miss most, if not all, of the season, probably. The torn ACL in January. Wide receiver Skylar Bell. Joe Brady said if there's an actual regular season game day, he would have gone, but precautionary. Senator Conor McGovern. He caught up with Joe Brady. He caught up with the Athletics' Joe Buscaglia right after the game, and he said, I'm good right now. I feel great, but I feel good. But this is multi-week injury still, and my goal is to be ready for week 1. That didn't instill much confidence in me whatsoever, and you should really be monitoring it as well. Instead of Van Granger or Lloyd Cushenberry have to start against the Texans' nightmare fuel defensive line, you can just hand the Texans the win right now and hand the Bills the loss right now. Like, what are we doing here? Like, that's concerning as hell for me. And then corner Max Hairston. This is weird. There hasn't been much reporting on this. Joe Brady's just described it as quote-unquote precautionary, but this is an extended week-long absence now. Safety Cole Bishop, and then safety CJ Gardner-Johnson, who re-aggravated the lower calf strain. In-game injuries, a couple of receivers. DJ Moore, after the big catch on the sideline, he went over to the actual bench sideline area and was checked out by Nate Bresky and his athletic training staff. And then he was good to go, picked up a helmet, walked around the sideline. Joe Brady said he's perfectly fine, and he looks perfectly fine. But Keon Coleman, this one's a bit more concerning because although, first of all, I didn't see at what point in the game he got injured, maybe a soreness thing. But second of all, Joe Brady said he's good to go. It's fine. Keon Coleman, he posted on Instagram right after the game. He's since taken it down of a picture of himself in a walking boot. That's concerning, especially for a player that, as you know, I personally do not care about in terms of his outlook for this season. Checking in on key roster battles. I thought left guard was more settled than it seems to be, but apparently it's still very much a competition seemingly between Alec Anderson and Austin Corbett. One, they pretty much rotated drives on and off in yesterday, time of recording. And two, Brandon Beane told CBS's broadcaster Andrew Catalan that there's been virtually no separation in this competition at this point in time, which I'm surprised by because I thought in training camp all the reports have been that Alec Anderson has way outplayed Corbett pretty easily. I'm going to say it. I'm not saying that like Caleb Alarm-Zor had a great game, but it's more so Dorian Williams had a great game. I'm like this close to giving KEO the starting Will linebacker, the starting weak side linebacker spot over Dorian Williams to pair with Terrell Bernard. I think the physicality and coverage ability is just too good to deny at this point in time. Again, it's not so much that KO was great, it's so much that Dorian Williams didn't do virtually anything. Next, this is intriguing to me, and this is goes back to the disappointment with Geno Stone. The final safety spot between Damar Hamlin and Geno Stone is a true battle, and right now, I'm giving it to Damar Hamlin. Geno Stone needs to play a lot, and I hope Jalen Kilgore starts getting playing time over Geno Stone and Sam Franklin of the like. Anyways, guys, little taste of our game recaps. Just a slight one with the preseason game, but yeah, that's what you can expect this season. Fleshed out even more so once the regular season game starts. If you're watching on YouTube, let me know in the comments below. Who were you most excited to see? Who were you most surprised by? Are you putting Kenai Walker as close to Ruster Lock right now over Toriano Pride like I am? Did anyone disappoint you? Did I forget anybody? I would love to chat. As always, I love to have conversations down there with you all. You can follow me personally on Twitter/X at @AWeingartner13 for any additional Buffalo Bills and or NFL thoughts, opinions, and discussions. You can, of course, watch or listen to this podcast on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Buffalo Bills football is back. I can smell it in the air. Regular season will be here before we know it in about 3.5 weeks, a month's time, give or take. Thank you for the support. As always, I will see you on the next one. Goodbye.